Hi there, and welcome to Rent Prep for Landlords. I'm Andrew Schultz, Community Manager here at Rent Prep. I'm also a licensed real estate broker in the state of New York with over 14 years of experience in the property management and investment property industry. In today's video, we're going to be answering the age-old question, are flushable wipes actually flushable? Let's get to it. Our test today is pretty simple. We have 5 different products that we are going to be testing, some of which are flushable and some of which are not. Essentially, what we're going to do is put each product into a container filled with water and check on it at the 2-hour, 6-hour, and 24-hour mark to see whether or not that product has naturally broken down as a result of being exposed and submerged in water. Typically, the problem we find with sewer backups, especially as a result of wipes, is that the wipes catch on something inside the sewer line, which creates an area where more stuff can catch, which eventually creates a clog and leads to a very expensive plumbing situation. So we want to know what happens to these products after you flush them down the toilet, when they're sitting in the lateral pipe between your house and the city sewer, or when they're sitting in the pipe that runs between your house and your septic tank. Our products today range from flushable to non-flushable. Starting off, we have Scott 1000. This is a single-ply toilet paper. It is marketed as both septic safe as well as clog safe toilet paper. It's single ply and it feels like sandpaper. Next we have Charmin Ultra Strong. This is the red pack Charmin. This just came out of a larger multi-pack. This one's also listed as both septic safe and clog safe. It's also listed as Roto-Rooter approved on their website, which I thought was interesting. That's a multi-ply toilet paper and it feels very, very soft. Moving on to the wipes, we have some I can't get that to focus there. We have some Simply Done flushable wipes. These meet the INDA guidelines for septic use. This is a moistened single ply wipe. It tears apart pretty easily. I'll pull one out here so that you can take a look. And this pulls apart very, very easily. Next, we have a That's Smart brand baby wipe. These are specifically marketed as non-flushable. Let me see if I can get that into the frame there. I don't know if it'll focus up, but there is a little icon over here that shows that it's not flushable. I guess that's not going to focus in. You'll have to take my word for it. These are, again, a moistened single-ply sheet. These are much, much, much stronger than the baby wipes. You can see there's a lot more stretch. And then if you try to stretch it the other way, there's some strength there as well. Last but not least, we have a Top Care brand makeup remover. Again, up in the corner here, there's a little icon that says that it can't be flushed. There we go, that one focused in nicely. Again, this one is marketed as non-flushable. This is, again, a moistened single-ply sheet. It's very, very similar to the baby wipes in strength. I'm going to get one out here, do a little stretch test for you. This, again, it performs very similar to the baby wipe in terms of the stretchability of it. And this is marketed as non-flushable. So for this experiment, each product is going to go into its own separate container and be covered with normal tap water. We're going to come back and check on these at the 2-hour mark, the 6-hour mark, and the 24-hour mark to see how much breakdown occurs. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours here. We're going to go ahead and run down through everything to take a look and see where we're at. We're going to start with the Scott. I'm going to slide these up and out of the way. Got the Scott paper here, and can't even really pick it up. As soon as you pick it up, it's starting to fall apart in your fingertips. There's definitely no unfolding it or anything at this point. Let's see if I can bring that closer to the camera. You can see that that's pretty much fallen apart here, even at the 2-hour mark. Kind of assumed that that would happen. That's pretty thin toilet paper. We'll move on to the Charmin. That Scott was single ply. The Charmin is multi-ply. I believe it's 3-ply. This one's faring a little bit better. Again, as I try to pick it up, it's starting to fall apart in my fingertips here. And it doesn't really seem to matter if I try to grab 1 ply of it or if I grab multiple ply. So again, this one is already starting to degrade here. And this is at the 2-hour mark. Show you that one as well. On to our flushable wipe. So this is the last flushable item that we're supposed to be looking at. This is our flushable wipe. And it smells better than the toilet paper. see what we got here. So I'm able to pick it up, which I was not able to do with either of the toilet papers. And I think I'm going to be able to unfold this if I'm cautious about it. Yeah. So this is starting to come apart a little bit. Not a lot. It still has quite a bit of its tensile strength to it. But it has not broken down the way that the other toilet papers have. There's still quite a bit of that there. Make sure that's fully submerged. We'll come back to that in a couple of hours. Onto the baby wipe. This is non-flushable. This is specifically marketed as a non-flushable wipe. You can see the little icon up there in the corner. Pull this one out. Yeah, this one is fully intact. There's some cleaning material, just some suds in the bottom of the container here. And this one does not appear to have lost a lot of its strength. I don't want to pull it too much, since we are kind of testing how they break down over time. But you can see this is still a full sheet, and it does still have quite a bit of strength to it. That's the baby wipe. And last but not least, the makeup wipe. And again, this was not supposed to be a flushable option. This is specifically marked on the package as non-flushable. Show you the lid. And again, same thing here. There's some cleaning suds in the container, but no actual breakdown of the sheet. And then there's your sheet there. Again, I don't want to pull it too much because we're trying to test over time, but you can see that that still has most of its tensile strength. We'll go ahead and submerge that one back underwater. Seal this up. And we will be back in 4 hours. We'll be back at the 6-hour mark. Okay, so we are at approximately 6 hours here. We're going to go ahead and slide these up. We'll take a look at our Scott toilet paper first. We'll go ahead. I'm actually going to show this to you before I try to pick it up because it's kind of fallen apart already. Hard to see there, but you can see that it's mostly fallen apart at this point, and not really able to pick much of it up at all. This is pretty well broken down at this point. Yeah. Moving right along, we're going to take a look at the Charmin. This was the 3-ply toilet paper. Again, we'll hold this up for you. This one is doing a pretty good job of breaking down as well. A little bit more to this, but again, as you try to pick it up, it does fall apart in your fingertips here. It's pretty well degraded. Again, this is exactly what you would expect to see when it comes to toilet paper that's been left in water or whatever for a period of a little while. Let's take a look at our flushable wipe. So this is the flushable wipe. It's marketed as being a flushable wipe. This is starting to degrade a little bit more than it did at the 2-hour mark. But it does still hold its shape for the most part. And if you tug on it, it does rip at this point. So I believe, if I remember correctly, this was pretty well able to be ripped before, but you can see this is pretty much intact. I don't remember if I held that up to the camera or not. But there we are. That's the 6-hour mark on a flushable wipe. So there's a drastic difference at the 6-hour mark, or really even back at the 2-hour mark, between the flushable wipe and toilet paper. You can see that the toilet paper just breaks down way better. This is the baby wipe. This hasn't broken down at all. Oops. You can see here there's some cleaning solution in the water, but there's no fibers from this at all. This hasn't broken down at all. I'm going to try to pull on it a little bit. I don't want to rip it, but you can see that it does still have quite a bit of tensile strength in it. Both directions. Actually, I'm pulling pretty hard there and it's not going. So this is a non-flushable wipe. I didn't expect that this one was going to break down, and it really hasn't. And last but not least, we have the makeup remover. This one hasn't broken down at all either. Still very much able to unfold it. Yeah, still very much able to unfold it. None of this has really fibered out or anything. Still has quite a bit of strength to it. I don't expect that we're going to see that break down either. So there you have it. That is all 5 of our items at the 6-hour mark. We'll be back tomorrow and we'll take a look at everything at the 24-hour mark. Okay, so we're back and we're at the 24-hour mark here. Let's go ahead and take a look, see where we wound up. We're going to start with our Scott. Yeah, this is pretty much as good as it's going to get in terms of where it's falling apart here. There's nothing that's really, you can't really pick this up anymore. Like the second you try to pick it up, it separates in your fingers. That's the single ply toilet paper. That broke down very, very well over the course of 24 hours. Let's take a look at the Charmin. This was the 3-ply toilet paper. And again, this one's broken down quite a bit as well. Not quite as much as the single ply, obviously. But you can see that it's doing exactly what it's intended to do. It's breaking down, and then when you try to pick it up, pieces of it are coming off, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's breaking down in the water. On to our flushable wipe. So this is the flushable wipe. This is meant to break down in water over the course of time. Here we are at the 24-hour mark. You can see that it really hasn't broken down all that much compared to the toilet papers, which have basically broken down into nothing. If I pull it apart, it does separate. But it does take a little bit of force to actually rip apart. It's not just falling apart the way that the toilet paper was. You have to put a little bit of force into it to get it to pull apart still. But again, you can see compared to, let me grab the Charmin because that was the better of the two. You can see that there's a pretty substantial difference, this being the Charmin and this being the flushable wipe. There's quite a bit of difference as to how much these things actually do break down over the course of time. Go ahead and seal the Charmin back up and the flushable wipe. Now we'll move on to our non-flushable stuff, starting with the baby wipe. Again, I don't anticipate that, yeah, there's no breakdown on this whatsoever. You can see that there's no breakdown on that whatsoever. You can still pick it up. It doesn't separate at all when you grab it. As a matter of fact, I'll try to pull on it a little bit. Yeah, it still has all of its tensile strength. Almost no impact on the baby wipe. And then the makeup remover, also non-flushable, not marketed as being flushable. You can see again, this hasn't broken down basically at all. We'll pull this out, do a quick strength test. I assume that this is going to be very similar to the baby wipe. There's nothing floating in here other than cleaning material. There's no fragments of the fabric or anything. And you can see this still has quite a bit of its strength. I'm not able to really rip this without putting some serious effort into it. So we have our results, but what did we learn? Well, the first thing we learned is that toilet paper, when submerged in water, breaks down pretty quickly. Both at the 2-hour, the 6-hour, and the 24-hour mark, you could see that the toilet paper continued to degrade, whether it was single-ply Scott or multi-ply Charmin, and that's exactly what you would expect to see. Toilet paper is meant to break down after it's used. You don't want the toilet paper to remain whole in your sewer line or in the municipal sewers or even in your septic. You want that to break down so that you don't have a ton of toilet paper that's just hardening over the course of time and creating one big brick. The problems start at the flushable wipes level, which obviously that's why we're here. We were testing to see whether or not flushable wipes are flushable. And the answer to that question is conclusively no. When you look at the flushable wipe and how little it broke down over the course of 24 hours, you can see that it's very, very easy for one of those flushable wipes to get caught inside of a sewer lateral. Typically, we see issues here in the Western New York region because we have older housing stock, late 1800s, early 1900s. So in any of those properties that have like a cast iron sewer lateral or have a clay sewer lateral, that's where we tend to see these sewer issues back up and become a bigger issue. What happens is the flushable wipe will catch on a burr or something inside the line and just start catching more debris as it's pushing itself through the sewer line. And more often than not, you're not going to get that to clear up unless you bring in a sewer snake and push everything out through the line. When you get past the flushable wipes to the products that are marketed as non-flushable, both the baby wipe and the makeup removal wipe, those were absolutely non-flushable. Those didn't break down at all during the course of the experiment over the course of 24 hours, and they still retained most of their tensile strength. You could see that I was pulling in both directions on those, and there wasn't really much movement. So I would say that obviously the non-flushable products, the products that have been marketed as non-flushable, certainly not flushable. I would say flushable wipes, certainly not flushable. You're going to wind up with a plumbing issue at some point if you continue to use those wipes. It's more just a matter of when and not a matter of if. Toilet paper is your best and only bet for flushing things down the toilet. Use toilet paper, flush your waste, flush your toilet paper, and that should be about it. So there you have it. This episode's not just for landlords. This is for anybody that's using flushable wipes. So if you have a friend or a family member that's using flushable wipes in your home, in their home, in a rental property, wherever it may be, do us a favor, share this video with them to prevent them from having an absolutely massive plumbing bill. What would you like to see us test next? Drop a comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Andrew Schultz with RentPrep.com, and we'll talk to you soon.